So good morning, good evening, and whatever. The first show in 2015, and a little bit later, so one week later, it was delay. So let's start with the first point, which are the announcements. So how was the year 2014? I have to say, it was just great from the Java and Java E and JavaFX perspective. I would say lots of conferences, not only this. So there were lots of great Java user groups, which were actually huge. So spent some time, for instance, in Gdańsk. Gdańsk was Poland, Belfast, and they were just whatever was Java E related. It was huge. Also, the Java 1 this year was greater than last year. It was bigger and greater, so lots of content. And so we had lots of airhack shows. In fact, this is the 10th show, and I save a lot of time with this because I only have to answer the questions once a month. And I got lots of questions, and we get more and more viewers. Actually, we get almost 100 concurrent views, which is actually interesting. Announcement, what is also new, somehow new, there is an airhacks news page where you can subscribe. So what I plan to do with this is I plan to send, I would say monthly on bi-monthly newsletters. For instance, I would inform you about the shift 1 week. So usually it is the first Monday of the month, and now it's the second. So I will write a newsletter for this, or inform you about new dates of workshops or new projects I release or whatever's interesting. I don't plan to spam you, and I actually this is the mailing list provided by MailChimp. So there will be actually no spam, nothing, and you can unsubscribe. So it is just and what I will never do. I have if you subscribe, for instance, to the airhacks workshops, you won't be automatically subscribed here. So you have to manually subscribe to the list if you would like to get the updates. So I sent already the first update with a broken layout, but the next one is going to be cleaner. So I just push the button send too early. And by the way, there was over 100 subscribers right now, which is crazy. Okay, these were the announcements from me, and we have lots of questions. Or another announcement. So I have to work on my marketing skills. So end of January, there are still seats for the airhacks workshops, and the microservices, we had to upgrade the room because there were more demand than the size of the room. So now we have the largest room on the airport Munich with a huge capacity, and the Java 8 with Java 8 with Java 7 workshop is very well attended, but not as attended as microservices, which makes me a little bit nervous because I will rely in microservices on your Java 7 and Java 8 skills. So I will use lots of lambdas and Java 7 features. And I have to say I will require some base knowledge. And in Java 8 with Java 7, I will cover this knowledge with lambda streams in conjunction with asynchronous Java 7 capabilities. And I would say a more independent workshop is going to be the workshop about testing, because I get lots of questions on how to test integration tests, stress tests, and run Sonar, whatever, for Java 7. So, and in March later is going to be the regular airhacks. Okay, now what I did is an interesting project called Headlands. And if you listen carefully to the previous show, I got the idea in San Francisco actually because of Marina Headlands. And for unknown reasons, I walk around San Francisco the very first day. It's like, what I actually need for my internal project is a RESTful API to the via the JCache. I used Hazelcast heavily, and what Headlands does, it exposes any SPI, like for instance Hazelcast on Infinispan, via a RESTful API, and is of course Apache project. And I will show you how the API looks like. It is actually, you can create the caches on the fly, get cache names. You can fetch the configuration of a cache. You can, of course, create the caches with configuration, with store by values. Everything is actually here standard. I'm not using any proprietary features. So Headlands comes with the recent Hazelcast as a war. So it is bundled in a war. There is Hazelcast with Jcache, and yeah, this is this is still poorly implemented the REST API, but I plan to improve it soon. Right now, I'm using Headlands already on my server for, I would say, about half a year or something. And what it does, it actually provides me the statistics. So all the statistics here are persisted in Hazelcast and using Headlands in memory grid. What's also interesting is I got the last question. Can you please explain how to configure Hazelcast as a distributed cache on multiple servers? And the very basic answer is just deploy Headlands multiple times and you get it in memory grid. So this is really what I do. So there's a multiple Headlands implementations and they just find each other. So I think the default port is 5701 in something like this in Hazelcast. So you should keep the port unblocked and you get in memory grid. And just for you, and it's not announced yet, there's another very interesting project called Porcupine. You can ask why the strange name Porcupine. Think about Hystrix. There is something from Netflix. So I played a little bit with this, and I will introduce the project in the microservices as an example of a microservices day to explain resilience with Java EE. And it's not ready yet, but I will also cover it in upcoming screencasts, so you don't have to attend the airhacks workshops to see how it works. I also plan to record some screencasts for the Headlands project. Okay, let's briefly see whether there's something interesting here. No questions. No questions. Idle Task asked me if I provide a link to a GitHub project of a JavaFX app, would you take the time to comment on it? I would even say if the project is interesting, I could even interview you on my blog if it's really interesting. And what we also can do, we can all review the project in upcoming show. So if you have something interesting, we can have a one-point project review. So we can just talk 1 hour or whatever, a special event about your project. So we can do whatever we like. Yeah. So, but what I really don't have the time is to provide you support. The problem I got in 2014 is the following. So I optimized my time like crazy. So I didn't spend a lot of time on conferences, stuff like this. I just was very efficient with this. And the problem with this is I didn't write any articles or new books because usually I write them in my, dead time in hotels or no travels. And because I was so efficient with my time, there was actually no time to write anything. So this is actually the price of spending all the time hacking. So project Headlands introduced, and now I got the third question from Peter. Is a long friend of Java. And he asked me interesting question. What are your overall Java EE favorites? And I thought about this. So actually, what is my favorite API, whatever? And I have to say, it is not about the API. What's my favorite is that I get all the APIs with one dependency. This is what I like the most on Java EE. I don't have to think about, what to include in the project and what to exclude. If I know I have Java EE, I can rely on everything. So this is one of my Java EE favorites is simplicity and productivity. Pick one dependency and you are ready to go. This is from, I would say, usability. This is my favorite. Actually, what I like the most is the usability of Java EE, developer usability of Java EE. Yes. So this is, I hope the question is answered. Then start with the, from the API perspective, I really like almost everything. I would say JSF is great for specific purposes. EGBs are very simple and very productive. CDI is very powerful. Sometimes even too powerful and still simple. JPA is great. We did lots of great projects with JPA bean validation. So I cannot, out of the cuff, I cannot tell you, any API which I don't like. In probably SOAP, So SOAP could be removed. So what happened here with the stream? I'm back. I just noticed that connection is getting worse and worse. So I just rebooted the router, and now it looks better. Don't worry, I will cut it off. Then you will get the full content on YouTube. Okay, what we spent, it was what are my Java favorites. So again, it's about usability. So which technology stack would you prefer to choose for an interactive single page mobile app? A single page and mobile app. JavaFX not supported by Apple. Kind of. I mean, at Java 1 there is an open source project announced, which is a mixture of RoboVM. For instance, you can use RoboVMs to translate JavaFX applications to native code. So it's called RoboVM. So we just put it to the chat. So it's called where was it? Yeah. It's the RoboVM project. And there was RoboVM, and the other project was called, how it's called? Java FX RoboVM. There was a project on Java 1 announced, which actually there was joint venture of RoboVM and FX, how it's called, FX Native or something. So you can cross-compile JavaFX application to Android and iOS at the same time. JavaFX ports. This is actually the right page, JavaFX ports, and so you can actually create JavaFX apps for iOS and for JavaFX and for iOS and Android at the same time. So this is quite interesting, so this is a possibility. So this is somehow true, but you can use another frameworks to cross-compile this. So GWT, MGWT, and PhoneGap. I mean, it could work. I don't like GWT and GWT or GWT a lot because of the turnaround time. So it is a really slow cycle, and I don't know, it's too complicated. Vaadin I like more than GWT because it comes with support from the Vaadin guys. They're a great team, and you usually don't have to bother with all the compilation steps. It comes with ready-to-use components. But Prime Faces or JSF is not very well suitable, I would say, for single-page apps. I mean, where JSF shines is a flow of pages, and not necessarily in having a one single page. And what I would consider as well, just having JAX-RS backend with native HTML5 frontend. Like, for instance, AngularJS, Ember.js, and stuff like this. This is not as hard as it may seem, and sometimes even easier than using some, crazy Java to JavaScript translations. So this I will consider for sure. But in one point, I think you have to know that if you would like to create a really great native apps, you will have to create native applications for iOS and native applications for Android. You get the best possible experience. I think it's impossible to create a really great mobile apps with plain HTML5. So let's see whether there are some questions. No questions. So file chooser, airhack. I think what idle task asked me whether Afterburner provides file chooser. No, Afterburner just provides plain dependency injection. There are no any additional components. So next one. What application server are you currently using in Java 7 project? So in my last project last year, it was Tommy. It was Java 6 project. So it was it ran on a host. on my blog runs on Tommy. This is the blog engine, and everything else is Whitefly. And most of my clients still have Glassfish. And if I would start again, I would consider Payara. So I was a little bit quiet with Payara because I thought, okay, let's see what what actually happens behind the scenes. But this project is really great. So what it is effectively Glassfish fork with commercial support. And I actually monitoring the GitHub API, the GitHub repository from them, and it really looks good. So there's really active community, and they are patching bugs like crazy. So before I use standalone Glassfish, I would rather go to Payara and get if I would get some problems, no support from the vendor. And so Payara is great. What you also get, support from LodgeOn. That's LodgeOn. That's the company. They also provide support for Glassfish, and these are the guys behind FX ports. So I would just paste it to chat as well. This is Payara. Oh, and forgot to copy this. So what is my opinion about Project Avatar? What Project Avatar is more or less, it is Node.js for Java. It is based on NAS1, which I really appreciate, and it can run on an application server and provides and looks like Node.js. So it is there's actually there are two kinds. There's one, a framework like this, and there's the Avatar.js, which is actually Node.js. So I would say my personal opinion is I like the Node.js story more and the framework story a little bit less, because I'm always suspicious if I see frameworks. So a virus, probably a Java virus or something like this. Or we are speaking about JavaScript, probably a JavaScript virus. So this is about Avatar.js. And yeah, so really interesting. In production, it really depends on the customer. So if you are a small startup, it could work for you. In commercial, larger commercial projects, I will be a little bit cautious, or at least teach my clients that this is actually nothing which is widely spread. But Avatar.js, this is actually a really interesting API. It's called Avatar.js. And this is what I find more intriguing or interesting. This is basically Node.js implemented in Java on NAS1, which comes with Java 8. So questions? Of course not. Questions here? No questions. Everything crystal clear. So next one, I think this will be the fastest airhacks ever, which is a good thing. Next question. So portable error reporting with JSON. This is a larger issue here. So I will just open the window. And this is the, as is in conjunction with bin validation, what I think this is Benjamin, what he said is it is not portable across implementation, because REST easy produces different errors and codes as the Jersey does. And I have to admit, in my projects, I didn't rely on the automatic mapping from bin validation errors to JSON. And the reason for this was I always was more specific about the I wanted to be more specific about the error codes, HTTP status codes and headers. So what I usually do, I pack some additional information to the HTTP headers with -x or x dash, which means a standard extension, and this x dash then provides additional information like I don't know, the customer is invalid or something like this. So this is what I do in my projects. And if you would really be to be portable, I think you will have to do something like this. Don't rely on the automatic error codes, just inject the validation and validate on your own. And what you could do, you can introduce your own exception mapper, for instance, or you can just implement, it's called interceptor or interceptor in JSON 2. I think it's called interceptor or decorator for the purpose. So portable error reporting. So what I usually do, I try to map exceptions to HTTP status codes and supply additional information with headers. Yeah, this is, and I don't rely on what is meant here. What you can do in JSON, I even recorded a small video about this. You can annotate parameters of a method, and they are validated by the bin validation. And what happens then is, if the validation fails, it is automatically converted to validation exception. And what Benjamin complains is the exceptions do not look exactly the same on Glassfish or Whitefly. And my response is probably the solution is too generic. So I would rather try, to think more about the API and say, okay, in case, the customer is invalid, then I would like provide additional info in headers, for instance. Okay. I'm no longer connected to the channel. So now it looks better. Thank you, Brian. I didn't notice this. Yes, this was basically it. I hope there are no questions left. No? Okay. So next one, how to map complex object strategies to JSON. So there's also a more complex explanation and boils down to the question JSON binding. So what Remco tries to do is to have something like JAX-B for JSON. And I have to admit, for instance, that the recent project I mentioned was Tommy with Java 6. And I use the standard JAX-B mapping to output JSON. And what I really missed was the flexibility of the JSON-P specification from Java 7. If I do JSON, usually I don't like any mapping. I would like to have the full control over the output, because what I really like and appreciate are usable and lean JAX-RS APIs or REST APIs. And if you're using JAX-B, you have not that much control over the structure of the objects. And usually what JSON-P for me is, or the JSON format, is basically a DTO. So I can expose directly my entities by mapping them to JSON, and you can use perfectly Java 8 for this with Lambda. So it's a really nice mapping strategies for this. So of course, the people are working already in the spec on JSON binding. I think it will come to Java EE 8. At least it was mentioned on the Java 1. This is also true. And and there are many proprietary APIs. The problem with proprietary APIs is what happens if you get Java 8, you will have to migrate it somehow to standard. And the worst possible case would be if the proprietary API becomes a standard, then probably this was like, SIEM was in the past. All the SIEM project gets some trouble to migrate to pure CDI because it was too much overlap. So this the same can happen with right now with proprietary JSON binding APIs. So how to map complex objects to JSON? Take your entities, use plain Java 8 and extract whatever you need and create the JSON objects on the fly using the JSON P API. This would be my advice. This is what I do in projects. And if the objects are if the object graph is huge and it's exactly what I need in a client, I would experiment with JAX-B, and Remco already suggested to use XML adapters, something like this. So so the next one, I hope. So task asked me whether I created something like file system abstraction. No, I didn't. I only have an interesting. I have a project called E2FTP. This is enterprise FTP server implementing Java E with FTP, but I don't have any support for Dropbox, so I didn't implement it. So again, all my JavaFX efforts were just a little bit architecture and a little bit architecture, I would say, dependency injection. This is very basic stuff, nothing useful. So still not connected. So Jacek said to me, I'm not connected, but I'm very connected right now. Okay. Modular JSF applications. And the question is, what modular actually mean? So usually what you can do with JSF very well, create components which are reusable. But I don't think is what Henry means by that. I assume what he would like to have is like communication between the apps. And this is even challenging in Angular. So if you have multiple, single page applications, it is really hard to communicate between them on pass state. So I would say for me, modularization means a true loose coupling. It doesn't mean that I'm segregating everything to jars. So I would like to replace one part without affecting the other, or even upgrade JVM without affecting the other. So I would just create wars with independent parts like JSFs, and then just link from one JSF to another. And this only works if they are really independent parts of the applications, or independent parts, self-enclosed parts, or coarse-grained, something like, I always give the example like linking from Word to Excel or something like this. Imagine Word and Excel were, or they actually are right now, native HTML applications. So you could call Excel from Word just by passing a link. So this is what I would say modular approach. But what he mentions here is what you can do with JSF right now is have a jar, put to the jar CSS, HTML, all the images, whatever you like, and achieve the modularization. But the question is why you are doing this, what you would like to achieve with that. So no questions. Here also no questions. So next one, and this is somehow related to the prior. It says someone asked me, now we have EARs, enterprise archives, and we would like to be somehow modular. And what it means is he would like to have something like composite app, which comprises multiple EARs. And this is actually the idea behind. And but the definition or the idea from Java E is a little bit different. How Java E operates is EARs are independent from each other. So it is actually, there is not even, communicating between EARs. It's just a hack, I would say, binary communication between EARs. And this is the same like, I would say, if you have a Windows machine or any native operating system, it's like, expecting that Microsoft Excel will, how to communicate between Excel and NetBeans, or Excel and Eclipse. You can say Microsoft Windows or Mac OS X is crap, because you cannot just easily communicate between NetBeans and Excel or whatever. But it was never meant to do so. This is actually the basic idea. And the point number one example is that remote EGB proxies are not automatically recovered after deployment. Of course not. I mean, and why they should be, right? So if I have ears, I would only communicate via JAX-RS and never via remote proxies, for instance. JAX-RS or HTTP is just perfect for this. Or use something like Hazelcast to communicate between. It's actually what I'm also do. Or any protocol which is Java independent for decoupling. Corba would be perfect, but it's way too cumbersome to use. But something like this. Communication between wars, and what this is a little bit strange. The point number 2 is if you have JSF apps, there is no way to integrate. There's no way to communicate from Java to JSF, and this is absolute true. Point 2, again, I would use JAX-RS for this. And another aspect is how to develop single ears with one or more teams members, how to hide parts of sources to subcontractors, but ensure deployability. So I think there's another problem. If you have to do something like this, usually what you would like to do, you will have to organize the teams around functionality. So one team creates one piece of war. Is the stream broken? No. Is the stream broken or not? Wait a second. Okay, it works. I thought the stream is broken again. So so this would be about you would organize the teams around the functionality and then just deploy it. So it would actually perfectly work. And how to hide something, I would use JAX-RS again, REST. So you have then, a really strict separation between the parts. Of course, you could do, I describe in my book the plugin principle, and what plugin principle actually does. The plugin principle, the plugin pattern, what it can do, you can just implement in a JAR's implementation for interfaces, and so each team could implement a plugin which can be integrated to the whole app. So I would say, the summary from him is not actually true. So we use modular Java E even without ears, just with wars, and it just works perfectly. And this is actually one of the part of the microservices talk, a workshop from the airhacks. We will talk actually the whole day how to do this. This is fairly easy. So the next story, very similar to the point number 10, is if I have multiple providers, so instance providers, and I would like to iterate over them. Can I do this across ears? No. But what we did exactly the same via JAX-RS. And there is a project called webhooks. This is a very old one, but the principle is interesting. So what you could do as a plugin provider, you can register to a central repository a plugin or an URI, and you can call back the URI, and if you know the data, you implement it actually on plugin. So again, what you can do, you have a registry, it's a post request, and you can post your own URI, and if something happens, you can go get called back, or you actually know the client. So this is what you can easily do with JAX-RS, but there is actually no possibility to achieve the same with plain Java, and across ears is always problematic. You will always have to hack something or hack around the problem. Point number 12, really interesting. So what I mentioned once is transaction synchronization registry can be used to pass context across applications. And what you can perfectly do is with this is you can put something in the EJB, and as long as you are in the transaction, you will be able to access the data. So you can fetch, for instance, from transaction synchronization registry the context from a JPA entities as long as they participate in the same transaction. So very interesting Very interesting principle. And he asked me, it doesn't work always. It only works if you're in the transaction. So it will work, for instance, in interceptor of an EJB, but it won't work in a backing bin of JSF if it's not transactional. So this, you can only pass the context, the transaction synchronization registry between classes if they participate in a common transaction. And I tested this with different versions of Glassfish, and I'm not sure whether I tested with Whitefly or JBoss back then. Now we have stateless session bean, and someone asked me, is it possible that we inject session scope to a stateless session bean and it will work? Actually, I tested this. It should work because, okay, it only works if the stateless EJB is called by JAX-OS or JSF. So the stateless EJB has to be called by something which is HTTP related, then it will work, because how it actually works is all these scopes work as long as you are associated somehow with the thread. So you have an activity thread, and whatever happens in the thread, the container, associates with the threads, the request scope, session scope, application scope, doesn't matter, conversation scope. So in this particular case, will work if the EJB is called by a JSF, JAX-OS, servlet, JSP, or whatever HTTP related, then we have the session scoped. And now we are done, actually, which is amazing. No questions. No questions. So, really fast. Oh, notifications, lots of. But still no questions. So I would say then thank you, and see you in one of upcoming conferences, workshops, or even airhacks, Munich Airport. And I think the next show is the February the 2nd, so it is just regular show. Ask questions on my blog and I will answer them. And yeah, sorry for the streaming problems. Now it's great, but I don't know what happened a half hour before. And yeah, thank you for watching, and bye.